Well, hello Internet! Welcome to a new guide video, and this time we're going to be talking all about weapon attributes. Attributes are very important and an integral part of your regular play through Fire Emblem Warriors, particularly because the various bonuses that they have make a huge difference in the long run for your success in this game. So once you go into the camp, you go into the smithy, and you get to actually have various options regarding your attributes. So obviously, reforged weapons, for those of you guys that don't know, it's just to to add attributes to empty slots. But we're going to take a quick look at the remove attributes, so we have a good look at the different skills that are available. So the first thing you're going to notice, I'm actually going to show you this particular weapon as the example. I'm trying to make this as beginner friendly as possible, because the thing about Fire Emblem Warriors is that they don't fully explain thoroughly enough how their game mechanics even work. So you'll see strong attack 4, and so basically you're going to notice this a lot. It's one of the more common attributes in the entire game. It is known as an attack attribute, and as you can see over there, it's attack 4 out of 6, because there are 4 attack attributes on this weapon out of the 6 possible attack attributes that we can even have on the weapon. Some will actually have lower ones, like you'll see here. This is break, it's 1 of 1, you're only allowed to have 1 per weapon, and this is boost, you can only have 1 per weapon. So obviously you're given more choice with attacks, but when it comes to the ones that only have 1 potential attribute to add to them, you have to choose and really think about how you want to play your character, because that's basically what attributes are for. It helps shape your playstyle as you go along the game, and obviously the ones that you want to go after are the ones that complement your playstyle the best. So when it comes to kind of translating or deciphering the meaning of these, it tells you right off the bat, it increases the damage of the combo. To keep track of what it actually means though, when it says strong and then the Roman numeral for 4, assume that they're talking about the 4th button on your input being the strong attack. So obviously this would mean 3 regular attacks followed by a strong attack, because the Roman numeral for 4. Then the same thing goes for 5, so 4 regulars followed by 1 strong attack being the 5th input, etc. So strong 4, 5, and 6, generally speaking, you will want this on most of your characters. Obviously, it also depends on how much you enjoy using these particular combos. Some combos tend to be more effective than others in some regards, but generally speaking, I feel that almost every character should have this. That being said, if you're starting out the game for the first time, you won't have a strong 5 yet, because you still need to have the master seals for your characters. But once you do, I recommend this one, because they are, generally speaking, the best move of that character's moveset. They've really done their work trying to streamline this game as best they can compared to Hyrule Warriors, where in that game, I think even strong 2 would actually be good on some characters, whereas maybe the strong 6 might not be as good, but I digress. Same thing goes for Rainstorm. This is very important because it gives you regular attack damage all across the board. And it's very important just because, most of the time you will be spamming regular attacks. If you're fighting low-level areas, then you're able to one-shot most of the enemies that are in sight. It just helps you progress that much more smoothly. So you have a limit to 6. I would personally only recommend maybe having 2 for most characters, so maybe it would be like a Rainstorm and then a strong 5, for example. 3 at the most in some cases. Maybe you'll have a strong 5 and a strong 6, but there are some characters out there that really benefit from having a strong 4. So really it's up to you as a player to sort of experiment with what you think is the best. Now, in terms of the actual layout of the game, you'll notice that there are KO counts on your weapon skills. So basically what it means is that you have to unlock that skill after getting that amount of KOs that it says, and then you're able to keep track in real time for every KO you do. I'll probably say later, actually, yeah, I'll show you guys right now since we're here. When it comes to unlocking the weapon attributes, the best place to go to is the timed onslaught here on history mode, the very first one for most of your characters. If it's a sword user, then I recommend using Lucina or Chrom and spamming the combo 6, and then you can pass that weapon attribute to a different character if you don't want to have it on them. And when it comes to axe users, I highly recommend Camila. All the Pegasus Knights have the exact same moveset for spears, so it's up to you if you want to use them for that. And Leo and Elise for the tome users I would recommend, because their combo 6 actually has a large area of radius. It's very good. And bow users, any bow user, again, they're all the same. And I think that basically does it, I think, for the movesets. Like, generally speaking, if they don't have a unique moveset, then use Lucina or Chrom for swords, Camila for axes, and Leo or Elise for tomes. But yeah, we'll just quickly go back to the attributes, though. So in terms of explaining the other ones, though, once you have those attributes, the 2,000 ones, and again, you're going to notice 2,000 KO and 5,000 ones. I only personally would recommend going after 5,000 ones. I feel that's more worth your time. The reason being that the 2,000 attributes, they're more like bonuses and not really things that you would establish your playstyle around. Like, you know, healing gifts, what this does, it doesn't read it right now, but basically what it means is after 300 KOs, you get a heal. That's all well and good, but my problem with this is that it's actually very easy to get healing in this game anyway. There are jars that you can get. You can stay inside of a force. You can eat a vulnerary. You can wait for a healer to run up to you. It's not particularly useful, but if you happen to have it on your strongest weapon at the time, which I'm going to assume is going to be the case for some people, then by all means use that. It's better to have it and not need it and have no alternatives. That's basically what I'm trying to say here. Same thing goes for 5,000s, though. 5,000s have probably some of the very best. And just so you guys know, if you need help kind of keeping track of all of your stuff, I recommend making use of the lock function. So you can see over here, it's triangle plus, and I want to keep track of that, so I'll lock it. So if ever I want to see it again, if I get carried away, all I can do is just look for my locks. So this one over here, no, it's not. And we'll go all the way back up, and there we go. It's a lot easier to find in the future, and it's good for when you really want to start focusing on making your weapons better. Now, 5,000 KOs, generally speaking, Triangle Plus is pretty good because it increases the advantages of the weapon triangle, but it does not increase the disadvantages. This is really good for people that like to focus on taking advantage of the weapon triangle, especially when it comes to things like pair-ups, and if they're up against very tanky enemies, and this will definitely be useful to them. That being said, though, in comparison to most of the available 5,000 KO ones, just so you all know, they're all from the same category of attributes. That means you're only allowed to have one per weapon. So if you have no other alternatives, then I'd recommend this one totally. But there are better alternatives out there, so it's something you'll want to keep a lookout. And that's kind of what this video is for, kind of my own personal hearty recommendations. Another 5,000 KO that you'll find is the Critical Plus, as you'll see here. This increases damage of critical hits. Very good for characters that have high skill, because critical scales with skill. This means that you're going to have much higher damage with your criticals. Again, just like with Triangle Plus, it's mainly just because you would base your playstyle around that if you happen to have it on your weapon. Otherwise, like, there are actually 2 attributes that are worth looking at, and they're very important. So I actually have them on like all of my sword users, or almost all of my sword users. So the one in question for 5,000, since you're only allowed to have one, you have to kind of take into account what you think is more important for that character. So in the case of Ryoma, I gave him Warrior Plus. For those of you guys that don't know, Ryoma is a fantastic unit in that he has, I believe, the highest damage of a Warrior Special and a dual Warrior Special. So you give him the Warrior Plus, he will one-shot people at the highest difficulties. Not a problem. He's an instant kill. And the thing is, it's mainly for characters that serve that end, where you're not really going to be using them very often on the field, only saving them in reserve for bosses. So that's what Ryoma's for. He can actually 2-shot Velzark on level 80 difficulty, which is really, really cool. But that's what you would expect for that particular one. Otherwise, Pair Up Plus, this is a very, very good skill, and I would recommend it on most of your characters. The reason being that increases your overall damage, so it increases the damage of critical hits, it increases the damage of warrior specials, dual warrior specials, regular combos, and it scales with Robin's Solidarity skill if they're paired up with someone that has Solidarity. So if you're going to spend a lot of time playing as this character and you have Solidarity, you get a huge damage boost, and it's one I seriously recommend. Now, for those of you guys that have beaten the new free DLC, you're going to notice that you're going to find weapons that are 3,000 KOs. For now, they're all Armor Strikes. Armor Strike is a very useful skill overall. I made a video about it. I'll put it up in the description and at the end of the video. Basically, it cuts resistance and defense in half, and it also stacks with Luna, which increases the defense debuff even further. So you actually do a lot of damage with this one, and I really do recommend this, particularly for newer players. Generally because it kind of helps provide incentive for a specific style of play. This particular style of play I'm talking about is avoiding getting hit and focusing on getting critical gauge. Once you get critical gauge, you will cut their defense in half, and it's definitely a good way to start learning when you want to look at the higher difficulties of play in this game. Now, there is a couple of other things. Also, there are the Slayer attributes. There are Plate Slayers, which make you strong against Generals and Great Knights. There is Wing Slayer, which is effective against Wyvern Riders and Pegasus Knights. Mount Slayer, it's good against Cavaliers. Draco Slayer, which is good against Maniquettes and also Wyvern Riders, actually. Like, these are all very good to have, but the thing is, though, don't expect to make too much use of them all the time. There will be some maps where you're going to find, like, a bunch of generals, let's just say in the case of Plate Slayer. You're going to find a bunch of them, and you can one-shot them all. The thing is, though, is that you do suffer a damage penalty unless you are wearing a unique weapon. For those of you guys that don't know, unique weapons are unlocked by finishing a particular quest that gives you a material that allows you to unlock the true power, and then you have to get 10,000 KOs on that weapon in order to get the increase in damage. And then once you have that, then you can use the Plate Slayer, and then you won't suffer the damage penalty. It's very useful, and I believe every single sword user in the game has a unique weapon, and I think there's like 1 or 2 per other class. So yeah, keep that in mind. Now, when it comes to Slayers, again, it's more of a bonus. The same thing could be said for the 2000s KO skills that I mentioned earlier. You know what? Speaking of which, there's also one called Awaken Gifts. Awaken Gifts, it tells you that you get a full awakening after 300 KOs. That sounds really good on paper, but I want to tell you guys right now, it does not work if you are in Awakening mode. If you were in Awakening mode, it will not count whatsoever. I got really excited. I put that on a Tiki, and unfortunately, it didn't serve that same purpose that I expected it to. So just a heads up, if you want that, then please get that. But then if you expect to have like infinite, like, you know, dragon mode with Tiki, it's not going to happen. So I just want to have that little disclaimer. By the way, one other thing I want to mention is Strong 1. Now, Strong 1, it affects the gimmick of the character. For those of you guys that are unaware, Strong Attack, or the gimmick, when you just press the Strong Attack by itself, it's only useful for certain characters. Some characters benefit greatly from this, and some characters do not benefit very much from this. Obviously, if you like spamming it, then yeah, then you'll obviously want to look into that. But generally speaking, Strong Attack 1, it works for any gimmick in the game, and in particular, it works for Camila because of her running Strong Attack. It's like one of the most broken moves in the entire game, and this increases the damage of that. So if you find it, go ahead and use it. In general, I feel like Strong 1, 2, and 3 would just be for characters that have not developed, they have not gotten the classic upgrade. So really, it just comes down to you kind of just base your playstyle over the weapons you have, and then you're going to eventually start working at late game stuff. And we'll get into late game gear towards the end of the video. I'll let you guys know. I'll probably put a timestamp. Yeah, we're going to put a timestamp and start talking about it, if that's what you guys want to see right now. Now, the last thing I want to say is, yeah, there's also the Topsy-Turvy. I'll actually show you that weapon, that attribute. So Topsy-Turvy is awesome because it swaps physical for magical attack power. It seems pretty obvious, but, you know, some people might have the question. And basically the issue about this is if you have a character who has higher magic than strength, give them this. Because what this is going to do is make their damage become magic damage instead of physical. And they will be able to bypass enemy defenses and instead go after resistance. And usually, for most enemies, resistance is quite low. So it's good for characters that have high magic. Characters like Lissa is a good pick. Celica and Cordelia, they have the same stats for strength and magic. Generally speaking, you might want to go for magic just because a lot of enemies are physically defensive and it's not magically defensive. Liana is one of the best sword users. If you give her Topsy-Turvy, she's really, really good. And really great for new players too. So yeah, Topsy-Turvy, it's basically makes things scale with magic instead of strength, which is useful for a large amount. Also, I had a commenter tell me that putting Topsy-Turvy for Robin is actually pretty effective because he doesn't have the best physical attack, and he doesn't get to take advantage of his high magic, but he is able to make use of his physical attack anyway, because his strength isn't the worst. And also, he still gives the magic bonus for his partner if he's a support. So it's something that you might want to experiment with in the future. So obviously, when it comes to like what late game equipment looks like, I'm just gonna quickly show you the general idea. So yeah, you already know about Lucina. I mentioned earlier that generally speaking, you would want to have 3 attack slots and then save the remaining 3 for like something else. With Lucina, all of her combos, like particularly 4, 5, and 6, they're all quite good. That's the thing about the Lord moveset, is that high damage, high single target, high AoE, and of course a regular attack. So that's 4 out of 6 right off the bat. But we also gave her the armor strike because I like having that on most of my characters anyway, and pair up plus because it increases her overall damage because she's gonna be on point most of the time. And like there's a couple of other ones like Raijinto again. I was actually a little dismayed because I wanted to fit strong 4 because I know strong 4 is actually really good, but I couldn't accommodate it. And also I give her the anti-triangle. Sorry, I actually meant to talk about this much sooner. Anti-triangle is very good because well, I guess in summation it means for all intents and purposes your sword is still a sword, but it is weak to axes and strong against spears. This is a very good skill to get. You'll get it from the Noble Lady of Kalen map. It's like level 45 difficulty, but it's totally worth it. And the reason why I find it so useful and why I would hardly recommend this for most people is because there's a very good chance that a lot of people playing will heavily invest in sword users or a very particular weapon type more than others. Obviously, maybe someone might be super into their axe users or super into their spear users. When you give one of them anti-triangle, you completely patch up any shortcomings that the weapon would have, because then you will have someone, like in terms of sword users, you will now have a partner that is strong against spears. So yeah, you're going to have a lot of like yellow gauge to work with, you're going to have a higher damage output as a result, and if you put that in conjunction with armor break, then you will be off to the races. That's pretty much how it works though. Obviously, I would give him the Warrior Plus because that's how I like to play Ryoma. Full disclosure, most of these skills, again, like I get a lot of people asking me, like, what would be the best possible weapon. There are many different ways of playing the game. I recommend that you only pick the skills that complement your own playstyle. For me, it's just building some meter with Ryoma, then playing as a different character, and then when it's time to delete enemies, I switch back to him, then make use of his amazing Warrior special damage. Yeah, I also want to give him the Draco Slayer. Again, Draco Slayer or any of the Slayers, they're more like bonuses than something you would base your playstyle off. It's more like a nice thing to have, just look at it that way. Now, also, I want to show off one more before we actually finish for the day, and it is Camila's axe. I love this character so much, but the thing about her is that, yeah, Rainstorm, you would give this to every character anyway, because increased regular attack damage. Combo 5 is the only combo that I like to use with her. I don't like any of her other combos, so that actually saves us some space. And that's kind of the thing about you guys that are watching right now. If you like certain combos more than others, and you find yourself spamming that same combo over and over again, then you should get the attribute that increases the damage of that, because that's going to benefit you in the long run. As well, I give her the Strong Attack 1, because her running Strong Attack is one of the best moves in the entire game. It's super broken. And of course, Pair Up Plus, because she's on point most of the time. Armor Strike. I was considering giving her Anti-Triangle, but then, well, actually, no, I think I still will give her an Anti-Triangle for this particular weapon. It's really useful if you pair her up with a sword user that has Anti-Triangle, because they complement each other perfectly. Because the thing is, axe users aren't very common. But that's kind of the thing, though. Like, it's really up to you as a player to sort of customize and experiment with the different things that you've encountered. Like, you might notice that some things might not be as effective, and therefore it's up to you to really look up all your different attributes that you'll see here. So yeah, in terms of additional stuff, like there are some things that I might have forgotten to mention. Like there's the special 200, oh sorry, not 2000 KO skills. Like if you have them, that's fine, but I recommend only spending the money for appraisal, because appraisal can be pretty expensive. I only recommend spending appraisal money on 5000s, just because they give like the very best benefits possible. But yeah, that basically does for all the attributes. Sorry if I missed anything. I hope I didn't miss anything. Pretty sure I didn't. But yeah, like if you have things like divining or any of the drop attributes, again, it's not really something that you would particularly look for in your endgame equipment. You totally could, but more often than not, it's more like a bonus. Again, like if it just so happens to be the strongest weapon in your inventory, you might as well like play based on what your attributes are before you start optimizing stuff. But yeah, that should basically do it for all the attributes. Thank you for taking the time to look this up. And if you have any more questions regarding attributes, I know this game's very confusing sometimes, even though it doesn't need to be. Please feel free to ask more questions in the comments down below. And someone, hopefully it'll be me, but someone will do their best to get back to you on that one. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you guys next time. Take care, everybody.